Hello, my name is Ethan. I'm 24 years old and I live in a small apartment on the outskirts of Sacramento, California. It's nothing fancy. A one-bedroom place with peeling wallpaper in the kitchen and a leaky faucet that I keep meaning to fix but never get around to. I work as a house painter, the kind of job where you show up early, cover everything in drop cloths, and spend the day inhaling fumes while trying not to drip on the client's carpet. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills, and I like the freedom of it. No boss hovering over my shoulder all day, just me, my brushes, and whatever playlist I throw on my old Bluetooth speaker. Most days blend together. Wake up at dawn, grab a coffee from the drive-thru, head to a job site, paint until my arms ache, then drive home in my beat-up pickup truck that's seen better days. The truck's a rusty Ford from the early 2000s with paint splatters on the bed from jobs gone wrong and a dent in the fender from that one time I backed into a mailbox. I don't have much else going on, no girlfriend, no big social circle. My buddies from high school are scattered now, some married with kids, others chasing jobs in bigger cities. Me? I'm content with the quiet. Weekends are for catching up on sleep, maybe watching a game on TV or tinkering with odd jobs around my place. Life's simple, predictable, and that's how I like it. No drama, no complications. That particular afternoon, though, everything shifted. It was a Saturday, the kind where the sun hangs low and golden, casting long shadows across the quiet suburban streets. The air had that warm, lazy feel of late summer fading into fall, with cicadas buzzing in the trees and the occasional car humming by. I was on my way back from the hardware store, my truck bed loaded with a fresh batch of paint cans, eggshell white for a client's living room redo. The radio was playing some old rock tune and I was tapping the steering wheel, thinking about nothing more than grabbing a beer and crashing on the couch when I got home. Then I saw it. Across the road, on the grassy shoulder, a motorcycle lay tipped over, its wheels still spinning lazily. My heart skipped a beat. Nearby, a woman was sprawled on the ground, motionless, her skirt hiked up awkwardly, dirt and gravel clinging to her clothes. Her brown hair was a tangled mess partially covering her face, and there were scrapes visible on her arms and legs. Blood trickled from a cut on her knee. No one else was around. The street was empty, just me in this scene straight out of a nightmare. I slammed on the brakes, my truck screeching to a halt. Without thinking, I jumped out and ran over, my boots crunching on the loose gravel. Up close, she looked older than me, maybe in her mid-30s, with a refined air despite the mess. Her clothes were simple but nice, like she was on her way back from a casual outing, not expecting this. Her skin was pale and her chest barely rose with shallow breaths. "Hey, miss, are you okay?" I shouted, kneeling beside her. No response. I gently shook her shoulder. Nothing. Panic surged through me. I checked her pulse. It was faint, and her lips had a bluish tint. Shit, this is bad? I remembered those CPR videos I'd scrolled through on YouTube once during a slow day at work. My hands trembled as I positioned them on her chest, starting compressions. 1, 2, 3. I counted in my head, pushing down firmly but not too hard. After 30, I tilted her head back, pinched her nose, and leaned in to give rescue breaths. Her skin was cool against my lips, a faint scent of perfume mixing with the earthy smell of dirt and grass. It felt surreal, intimate in the worst way possible. Me, a stranger, trying to save her life on the side of the road. Time stretched out. It couldn't have been more than a minute or two, but it felt like an eternity. My arms burned from the compression, sweat dripping down my back. Then, suddenly, she coughed violently, her body jerking as she gasped for air. Her eyes flew open, wide with shock and confusion. She sat up abruptly, staring at me like I'd just attacked her. What the hell are you doing? She rasped, her voice hoarse. Did you just kiss me? I froze, my face heating up like a furnace. No, you weren't breathing. I had to do CPR. You crashed your bike. I saw you lying there and... She blinked, looking around disoriented. Her gaze dropped to her torn skirt, the blood on her legs, the scrapes on her elbows. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she tried to pull the fabric down, wincing in pain. "Oh, God," she muttered, covering her face with one hand. "This is mortifying." I stood up quickly, giving her space. "Are you hurt bad? Headache? Nausea? Your bike's wrecked. Do you live far?" Should I call an ambulance? She shook her head slowly, still catching her breath. No ambulance, just scratches, I think. My house isn't too far. But she glanced at the mangled motorcycle, then back at me, her eyes a mix of gratitude and wariness. The sun was dipping lower, casting an orange glow over everything. The road was still deserted, but I didn't like the idea of leaving her here alone. Look, my place is just a few minutes away. You can clean up there. I have a first aid kit. It's not safe out here. She hesitated, studying me for a long moment, as if weighing whether I was some creep or genuinely helpful. Finally, she nodded. Okay, thank you. I helped her to her feet, steadying her as she limped to my truck. She winced with each step but didn't complain. I loaded her bike into the bed. It was scratched up but salvageable, then opened the passenger door for her. As I drove, the silence was thick, broken only by the hum of the engine. I kept stealing glances. She stared out the window, arms wrapped around herself, looking vulnerable in a way that tugged at something inside me. Who was this woman? And why did I feel like I'd just stepped into something bigger than a simple roadside rescue? Back at my apartment, I helped Sophia out of the truck, supporting her weight as she limped up the short walkway. She was quiet, her arm looped around my shoulders, and I could feel her tense up with each step. The place wasn't much to look at. A squat building with faded beige siding and a couple of potted plants I'd forgotten to water. I fumbled with my keys, unlocked the door, and guided her inside. The living room was sparse, a worn couch, a coffee table cluttered with paint swatches and takeout menus, and the faint smell of turpentine from my work gear in the corner. Sit here, I said, easing her onto the couch. She winced as she settled in, her skirt still torn and dirty. I grabbed a glass from the kitchen and filled it with cold water from the tap. Drink this. You need to hydrate. She took it with a small nod, her fingers brushing mine briefly. Her eyes darted around the room, avoiding mine, and she tugged at the hem of her skirt, trying to cover the scrapes on her legs. Her face was flushed, a mix of embarrassment and pain. I could see how exposed she felt, clothes ripped, hair a mess, relying on a stranger like me. I'll get the first aid kit, I muttered, heading to the bathroom cabinet. It was a basic one, bandages, antiseptic wipes, some gauze. When I came back, she was still fidgeting with her clothes. You might want something to change into. That skirt's pretty torn up. I have some clean shirts, oversized, but better than nothing. She looked up, her cheeks reddening further. Yeah, that would be good. But turn around, don't look. I chuckled awkwardly, grabbing a plain gray t-shirt from my drawer and handing it over without peeking. No problem. Take your time. I faced the wall, hearing the rustle of fabric behind me, the sound of her slipping out of her damaged clothes, a soft exhale as she pulled on the shirt. It was oversized on her, hanging loose like a dress, but it covered everything. When she cleared her throat, I turned back. She looked more comfortable, though still guarded, sitting there with her bare legs crossed. Thanks, she said softly, her voice a bit steadier now. No worries. Let's get those cuts cleaned up. I knelt in front of her, opening the kit. Starting with her knee, I wiped away the dirt gently with an antiseptic pad. She hissed at the sting, but didn't pull away. This might hurt a bit, but it'll prevent infection. I worked methodically, arms, elbows, a small gash on her palm. She watched me the whole time, her expression a mix of curiosity and caution. You're good at this, she murmured after a while. Do you have kids or something? I shook my head, taping a bandage over her knee. Nah, just grew up roughhousing with my brothers. Learned to patch myself up early, plus painting jobs, lots of splinters and scrapes. She nodded, relaxing a fraction. I don't need an ambulance or anything, it's just superficial. I'll head home soon. I glanced out the window, the sky was turning dusky, shadows lengthening. It's getting dark. And you're still shaky. Why don't you stay the night? I can take the couch, my room's clean, sheets are fresh. No funny business, I promise. She hesitated, biting her lip. Her eyes searched mine, weighing trust against vulnerability. Finally, she sighed. Okay, just for tonight. I don't want to impose. You're not. I stood up, feeling a strange sense of relief. Rest here, I'll make some dinner, nothing fancy, but it'll help. The kitchen was tiny, but I rummaged through the fridge, ground beef, pasta, a jar of sauce, some wilted veggies. I threw together a simple spaghetti bolognese, chopping onions and garlic while the meat browned. To my surprise, Sophia wandered in after a bit, leaning against the doorframe. Need a hand? I can chop the carrots. Sure, I said, sliding her a knife and cutting board. She worked quietly at first, but the rhythm of cooking eased the tension. So, what do you do? I asked, stirring the sauce. I'm a freelance graphic designer, she replied, her knife tapping steadily. Moved here a few months ago after, well, a divorce. Starting over, you know. The bike was supposed to be my new thing, learning to ride for independence. Guess that backfired. I nodded, plating the pasta. Sounds tough. I've had my share of resets too. Dropped out of community college, bounced around jobs before painting stuck. Slept in my truck for a week once when a gig fell through. Pizza for every meal, cheap, but gets old fast. She smiled faintly, the first real one I'd seen. Pizza diet? Sounds like my college days, but yeah, starting over. It's scary, but freeing. We ate at the small table, the meal simple but warm. Conversation flowed easier. Her talking about redesigning logos for small businesses, me sharing stories of botched paint jobs that turned into all-nighters. She laughed at my tale of accidentally painting a client's ceiling neon green instead of mint. For a moment, the awkwardness faded, replaced by something comfortable. As night fell, I set her up in my room with fresh towels and a spare blanket. Bathroom's down the hall if you need it. I'll be on the couch if anything comes up. She paused in the doorway, looking at me with those uncertain eyes. Ethan, thank you, really. No problem, Sophia. Sleep well. I crashed on the couch, staring at the ceiling fan, spinning lazily overhead. The apartment felt different with her here, less empty. Her shadow flickered under the bedroom door as she moved around, and I couldn't shake the thought. This stranger, with her quiet strength and hidden vulnerabilities, had just crashed into my life. And somehow, I didn't mind at all. The morning after, Sophia emerged from my bedroom looking a bit more composed, though her movements were still ginger from the bruises. She'd folded the borrowed shirt neatly and handed it back with a quiet, "Thank you." It smelled faintly of soap. She must have rinsed it in the sink overnight. I walked her to the door, the awkwardness from the day before lingering like morning fog. She glanced around the parking lot as if checking for prying eyes before stepping out. I appreciate everything, Ethan, really. I'll get my bike fixed and, well, take care. No problem, I replied, rubbing the back of my neck. If you need anything else, you know where to find me. We exchanged a brief nod and she limped to a cab she'd called. I watched her go. The truck bed still holding her scratched-up motorcycle like a reminder of the chaos. The day returned to normal after that. Me heading to a job site to paint a kitchen in some suburban home, brushes dipping into beige latex, the radio droning on. But her face kept popping into my thoughts, those wary eyes, the way she'd relaxed just a little over dinner. I shook it off, figuring it was a one-off act of kindness, nothing more. 2 days later, though, there was a knock at my door while I was scrubbing paint off my hands after a long shift. I opened it to find Sophia standing there, her motorcycle parked curbside, looking repaired. She held a paper bag of oranges, the kind that smelled fresh and citrusy, even through the wrapper. I brought these as a thank you, she said, her voice steadier now. For everything. The rescue, the bandages, the food. I didn't get your name properly before. Ethan, I said, taking the bag with a grin. And you don't have to thank me. Glad you're okay. Bike looks good as new. Sophia, she replied, extending a hand. Her grip was firm, professional, but there was something warmer in her eyes this time. Not just gratitude, but a spark of curiosity. We chatted briefly on the doorstep about the mechanic who'd fixed her ride, and she laughed when I joked about my truck being next in line for repairs. It felt easy, natural. She left after a few minutes, but not before saying, "Maybe I'll see you around." And she did. A week later, she knocked again, this time asking if I had a ladder she could borrow. Something about hanging curtains in her new place. I lent it, and when she returned it the next day, we ended up talking over coffee on my tiny balcony. She opened up a bit more about her divorce being fresh, how she'd moved to Sacramento for a clean slate, working remotely as a designer to avoid the office drama. I shared stories from my painting gigs, the quirky clients, the satisfaction of transforming a drab room into something fresh. Our ages never came up directly, but the gap was obvious. Me in my mid-20s, still figuring life out, her in her 30s carrying the weight of a failed marriage and independence. Those visits became semi-regular. Sometimes she'd drop by with leftover baked goods from her kitchen experiments. Other times I'd swing by her place to help with minor fixes like tightening a loose doorknob. It wasn't romantic, at least not at first. Just two people in a quiet neighborhood finding a bit of company. But in a small suburb like ours, nothing stays